what's up, guys? Operation Despop here. Episode 2 starts now.
So today we're bringing you guys something great. FTO, the do's, and obviously the don'ts are going to be the opposite of the do's. Let's not get crazy here, people, all right? Great episode coming up right now. Very excited for you guys to have tuned in. How did we do, man? We talked about it in the last video, but let's let these guys know how great they are.
Hey, you guys are great. I'll tell you right now, and the amount of time, the 6 days now that we've been up, we have 42 subscribers. What is it, 61 watch hours or something like that?
Yep.
So it's coming along.
Yeah.
We're getting it done.
It's not slow by any means.
No.
I mean, we're rolling stones here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So again, thank you to you guys who are tuning in. Thank you to you guys who are hitting that subscribe button. And since we're here, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, email us again, opdeskpop@gmail.com. We'll put it up somewhere like we usually do.
Probably again right here. We'll get it squared away for you guys.
So, Jonathan, back for episode 2, FTO. Where do we even start?
Well, I mean, we could start with the obvious.
What is that?
It's going to be having a uniform that fits, honestly.
Yes. Yeah. Why? I mean, that seems like a dumb thing. Why do we need a uniform that looks good, that fits good?
Well, I'll tell you that the bad guys, the robbers, so to speak.
Oh, you can't call them that. It's
sorry.
2023.
My bad. The troubled individuals.
There you go.
They're going to see right through that uniform, really.
Yeah.
Just being day one on the job, you might be a big bad cop with a badge and a gun, but the hardened criminals, the real people, they're going to see right through all that stuff.
Yeah, and I'd add that especially the people who have been to prison, especially the people that have been in jail, they've gone through COs, they know a new CO when it comes in, and that translates out onto the street 100%.
Yeah, they know fresh meat when they see it.
Oh, yeah.
If your uniform looks like crap, if your shirt's not tailored,
Yep.
if your boots aren't shined, if you're right-handed and your gun's on the left side, they might not know it for that second, but they're going to pick up on it pretty quick.
Very quick, yeah. I'll bring up a story really quick. So I made a traffic stop on an individual who I can't even remember the traffic stop, or I guess the reason for it, but he did 25 years in a Texas prison for murder. And he immediately knew that I was a newer officer because one of my partners had showed up, and he told us, they're pretty honest, the people who have been in prison for especially that amount of time. He had no disrespect whatsoever. He was just like, hey man, I know you're a rookie. Is there any chance that I can talk to somebody who's been around for a while? Yeah. So and you can't blame him for it. That wasn't to say that my uniform wasn't set up properly. It wasn't to say that I wasn't confident. It's just simply the fact that sometimes you just can't get away from the fact that people see it. They see through it,
Oh, yeah. I mean, hands down for me, being a day one cop on the job, I can remember, back when I first got my shiny badge and uniform, and, it was a little ragged, it just didn't fit quite right.
It's typically you get hand-me-downs, first off, or you get just a normal natural size from the outfitter, the police outfitter, and you don't have time to tailor it right off the bat. But and again, guys, these aren't in any specific order. I think these are all super important. So we're not saying that the uniform is the most important thing. It's just something that, as we were out on the streets, it's definitely something that gets brought up to these guys' attentions very easily. Now, when I was in FTO, I actually switched over to my hard uniform when I was in FTO, because I noticed that when I had my outer carrier on, they they would come to you first, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd been there enough now. I wasn't necessarily a rookie, still newer, obviously, but they could tell me apart from my trainee. And so I moved back down to the hard uniform when I was in FTO, and that went away. They saw 2 officers show up. They looked the exact same. We're looking good in our hard uniforms with our badges and our nameplates, and they were able
Doesn't
to.
the hard uniform just look so much
It looks
more
so good. It looks so good.
professional?
The outer carrier was great. It helped the back, but you can't beat that.
No.
That classic.
It's like that old LAPD
Yes.
style, like.
Yep, the lap D style, man. It looks good. It looks clean. You get more respect out of it. I fully 100% believe that they'll respect you more with a hard uniform on.
Oh, no doubt.
So, and I am glad to see that there's a lot of people from our agency that are kind of switching over to that. It looks like the current chief there is kind of moving, towards that direction. So
I think that guy's worn a hard uniform since like
Day one,
day,
yeah.
Day one.
Day
man, that
one
guy
in a
came
hard
in
uniform. So, and
Ready to go.
it looks good. So that's number one. Also, take your appearance seriously. Don't leave the locker room without shaving. Don't
Oh, dude,
keep
I
your
remember.
hair. Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you
there's
a
time.
story that I can remember because I may have slacked off a little bit in FTO process and in not shaving.
Everybody does it.
Yeah, right. I mean, you wake up late, you roll out of bed, your hair is just like going this way and that way, and I chose not to shave. And I knew it for the second. I'm like, dude, and I had the 5 o'clock shadow, the stubble, and I'm like, nah, it's not that bad. No one's going to notice.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, everybody notices.
Everybody notices. My sergeant, as soon as I got in, was like, you didn't shave. I'm like, and of course, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, Sergeant, I did not shave.
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I've definitely had that too. If you go a day or two without shaving and the little 5 o'clock starts coming, I mean, as soon as they look at you, they're going to call you out. But that's their job, so. And right then and there, I said, okay, hung my head, ran back to the old locker room, and bzzz.
Oh, you had the electric?
I had to, man. I got sensitive skin.
Oh, man, I can't do the electric.
I'll put myself out there, man. I got sensitive skin.
Do some Dove or whatever that is.
So, hey, that's a very great product, all right? I'm going to go ahead and say geography is another big thing in FTO for multiple reasons. So one of the biggest is, they say like the number one rule is location, location, location. I mean, you have to know where you're at. You have to know where you're going and study that map. One of the things that I did while I was in FTO, you can have your spouse pick an address and try and get yourself there based off of the numbers of the address or the street name if you remember it. And obviously that's going to get a little bit better as you go to more calls. You'll start recognizing, now I remember that street. I was just there yesterday. Happened a lot to me. But geography is very, very important. Not only that, but you need to know where your officers are too, your partners.
Yeah.
I know you're not in any supervisory role in FTO, but it is still very important to know where your other partners are because, heaven forbid, they ask for help. You need to know exactly where they're at, and no hopping in the car. There's no seconds to spare at that moment. You already need to have an idea of where they're at. You need to have an idea of where you're going. Super important. And one of the things that I brought up earlier was like, you're not going to have a GPS in foot pursuit. And that was one of my biggest fears, going through FTO is like, I know as soon as I bail, they're going to ask for location and I'm not going to have my beautiful little computer screen right here to give me the cross street. Yeah. So,
dude, when I was FTOing, that was my biggest thing, man, is like you will learn the city based on memory, or you will learn the city based on, looking at the map, driving around, on your days off. And I used to tell all my new guys, I encourage you to drive around. It's not required
Yeah.
because then we get into, well, my FTO said,
Yeah.
so now,
Sure.
You have people that try and dog the system and go
Yep.
put in comp time or overtime for
Yep.
stuff
That's
that their
exactly
FTO
right.
said, right? And so I can remember telling guys, like, if you want to really be proficient at your job
Mm-hmm.
and make it through FTO, go drive the streets. Go grab your girlfriend, your spouse, your partner, whatever. Get a coffee or your favorite non-alcoholic beverage, and go drive around and drive the streets. I said, then I would tell them, like, take the hot sheets from the day before.
Yep.
And go drive to those houses
Yeah.
on the opposite side of the week.
And sometimes, I mean, if you're on FTO, you probably already have your radio and stuff. Turn on your radio, listen to the addresses and stuff, and plan out in your head. I mean, don't show up on the call. Please don't be that guy that shows up on the call when you're
Don't be
off,
that guy.
dude. Yeah,
Throwing up the four.
You guys go for, or like blaring loud music and stuff. When I wouldn't do that. But have those addresses running through your head. Have dispatch telling you the address, you grabbing it as quickly as you can, running through your head, through your ears. Now, that's not to say don't do this 24/7. If you have some spare time, go do it. But you're going to learn a lot more definitely on the job and going to those calls, and it brings back to the experience. I'm sure I could bring up so many different addresses, right now that I've just had crazy experiences in. And in the fact that when I have those experiences, I know exactly where to go, I know exactly how to get there. When dispatch tells me that you need to start going there.
Oh man, I remember one time I was training, and I asked my trainee, because there was a call that popped up on our CAT screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Hey, what's that address?" Or I think I actually either took the screen or it was entered into a way to where this person did not know what the address was, like the building.
Yeah.
And it was the police department headquarters.
Oh,
and I
that's
said,
a good one.
Hey, where's 110 South Fifth Avenue? Or what's that? And this person...
the gears are turning.
Yeah,
I've seen this address before, I think.
The smoke is coming out of the ears.
Yeah.
Like it's just overdrive, right?
Yeah.
And ends up being, couldn't tell me what it was. And so I told this person, I said, yeah, that's the address to the police department. You should probably know that one.
That should be like your number one address. So like,
Right.
Where do you work? This location.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I was riding with you, and I will absolutely call myself out. Riding with you, I believe I talked about the big fight. It was my first fight. Guy, bad dude. I mean, he did bad things to family members, and he's getting drunk on his 18th birthday. He ends up fighting me. My first fight, and so I'm all over the place, man. It was my first fight. I was probably second phase, so geography wasn't 100% yet.
Yeah.
And then we get a call for another fight in progress. So we hopped in the car, and I headed down the street, and then it was a TN with a left and a right, and I went the wrong way. Because I didn't ground myself, I didn't take the tactical breath and figure out where I was. I didn't figure out where I needed to go. All I said is there's a call on the board and I need to go to it. And that's it, and obviously brought me back down to reality. Take the breath. Where are we? Where do we need to go? Which direction are we heading? And we got there.
Yeah.
We got there,
We made it.
Yeah, and it ended up being nothing, I think,
Right.
if I remember right, which is good. But don't be me, I guess. That's the moral of that one. It happens, but if I would have calmed down a little bit, just relax, take that tactical breath, saw where the call was, figured out where I was, there would have been no issue there in turning the wrong way. So.
And that's probably the other thing that we could bring up, in this road to rookie status, is the ability for you to recognize, hey,
Yeah, I messed
shit's
up.
getting too hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to take that tactical breath.
Yep.
That deep breath in through your nose.
Yeah.
More oxygen to the brain. Hold it.
Yep.
Breathe out slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot for us as police officers. You're relatively 100% all the time. And you're keeping your brain up on guard. You're keeping your physical self on guard. It take a breath. It's gonna be okay. Just figure out where you are, figure out where you're going, and go help the next person.
Yeah, because if you can't get there in the first place, who are you helping?
Nobody.
Right.
Not even yourself at that point. I will add to well, we'll hit the next point later, because I mean, I want to bring up, if you mess up like I did, you learn from it. You don't hang your head. You don't dwell on it. You learn from it. You move on, accept that you made a mistake, and say, well, now I know if I'm going to this address, I'm going left instead of right, and
Right.
having to take the roundabout back to go left.
In being the trainer too, like recognizing
Yeah.
someone that can do that
Yeah,
and understand that,
definitely.
you see that. I know myself being a FTO trainer, I understood when someone truly, could hang their head and say, I messed up.
Yep.
This is what I'm going to do to fix it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it translates to the very next call.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. I mean, if you're not able to let that go on the next call, you're going to do even worse on the next call. If you can't let that go, you're going to do even worse on the next call. And again, that's only at a detriment to yourself and the community. So you have to have that ability to understand that you made a mistake, you learn from the mistake, move on, do better on the next call.
Yeah, no doubt.
So what else?
I would say just understanding, get to know your code book,
Yeah.
in whatever state you're in.
Yeah.
If you have a cheat sheet code book, I know here in Idaho we have, small small books that have all the major stuff or like the everyday things.
Yeah,
you
the
do.
common,
Right.
even traffic laws, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Why is that important? I mean,
Well, I'd
why is
say
that
it's
important as a
important.
cop?
I would say that there's a lot of laws that are important to know off the top of your head,
Yeah.
because there's going to be a point in your training where you just have to understand this. These are the elements of the crime.
Mm-hmm.
They've been met, and now it's time to react.
Yeah.
You're not going to get opportunities to where, oh, hey, sir, you're fighting with your wife, or I'll be right back.
Yeah.
You can't leave that situation, and you have to be the one that's going to be there to save the day when people call 911.
Yeah.
And part of that is knowing your laws, knowing your state statutes.
Absolutely. And this one obviously kind of bleeds into, command presence, officer safety and stuff. You're not going to have command presence when you're, well, give me one sec. Let me look up what this law means really quick. Know those laws, those common laws. A lot of the ones that I learned, domestics, gun laws, drug laws, the city municipal codes. That's another big one, because that is what gives you governmental interest. That is what explains to the person why you're there. That is what gives you the ability to detain somebody. I mean, that's what it gives you the ability to put handcuffs on somebody. So knowing those laws, what fits those laws, and being able to articulate the situation that you're in regards to that specific law is absolutely huge.
Right, and you said a great word, a hot word, is articulation.
Yeah.
I feel like being able to articulate a situation is extremely difficult to someone that is new to police work. And I've seen cops that have been on the job for 15, 20, 25 years, and you know what? The articulation to them is like a foreign language still.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like, how can you be that far in your career and not understand articulation?
Yeah.
And have it down to a T or a science or like a dance, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, you'll see, and I saw it in my career, you'll see a lot of cops, not necessarily walk away with things, but give a lot of verbal warnings, because it's like there's not articulation to our, well, first off, I mean, there is 100% articulation in, Idaho state law specifically, but being able to get to that articulation didn't seem like it was there, and I honestly don't know what that stems from. I think our laws are relatively clear cut, and let's say they aren't. Case law is a beautiful thing. And I'll put that in here too.
Learn your case law.
Learn your case law. I mean, there's tons of case law out there that literally guides you as to what you can and can't do. I'm sure everybody hopefully has heard, even such as like Graham B. Connor. Hopefully you're learning that in your FTO process and what gives you the right for detainment and stuff like that, or what gives you the right for, the Fourth Amendment, being able to take away somebody's their freedom, which is putting them in detainment. Huge. I mean, articulation is, I would say 95% of police work. I mean, it's a lot of brain power to know your laws, and it's a lot of brain power to fit the scenario that you're in. Does it fit any laws? Yes, it does. They're going to jail. No, it doesn't. But I still have the right to detain until you find that information, ask questions, interrogate, whatever the case may be, and then make that decision later on.
Yeah.
So the next one, I'd probably... This is my number one, dude. Right off the bat, this is my number one rule in FTO is officer safety, because officer safety is going to bring you back the next day to continue doing your job. Officer safety is going to bring you back home to kiss your husband or wife and kids goodnight or good morning, whatever the case may be. So tell us a little bit about officer safety.
Yeah, I would say officer safety is huge.
Yeah.
It's a thing that is easily teachable.
Oh, yeah.
An easy teach moment.
Yeah.
To be a trainer and teach a new guy.
Mm-hmm.
How successful they can be at officer safety, or on the flip side of that coin, how lackadaisical they could be.
Yes.
To cause death, serious bodily injury to themselves or somebody else.
Yeah. What's the number one killer in cops, do you think? I have the word in my head. Starts with a C.
Complacency.
Complacency kills, man.
Yeah.
And officer safety, if you get complacent in that, it's no bueno.
Right.
We see it. I won't say we see it all the time, because there are obviously times where bad people do bad things, but complacency and officer safety can lead you down a bad road. So don't ever let that go off of your number one list.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and to speak to that same, complacency kills. It's a lot of, cops that think, well, I saw this on Police One, but it's not going to happen to me because I live in Podunk,
Yeah.
Idaho, or not huge metropolis, LA,
Yeah.
and I can search this car by myself, or I can search someone by myself.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for everything, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that to never search a person on your own or
Right.
do anything like that.
Some agencies do have, like one or two officers on at a time, and backups 30, 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
But there are still ways to have officer safety while you're searching somebody.
Yeah. And get creative in that too.
Yeah.
If you're one of those guys that's, your backup is 30 minutes away or across the county, and you need to search this person right now or whatever, get creative.
Yeah.
And whatever you're going to do.
Well, and have articulation with it, There's been times where, even if, and obviously in Idaho, marijuana is legal. If you smell marijuana, and it's just you, what would prevent you from placing somebody in handcuffs when you're investigating a misdemeanor that's been committed in your presence, possession of marijuana, possession of a misdemeanor controlled substance, and you can articulate that you're the only one on scene. You're not going to have this person, behind you. And something that I got told quite often is, handcuffs come off just as easily as they go on. Now,
No doubt.
Articulate to the person that, hey, you're not under arrest, but you're being detained. Here's the reasons why. Just be honest, be upfront about it. It makes more sense to them. They're more likely to comply because they're understanding.
Most of them. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them, yeah. Now, we were under a policy really where you didn't put anybody in handcuffs unless you were with somebody else. But again, our agency had the amount of people that we could do that with. So, but officer safety is huge. And And we talked about geography. I mean, geography is also an officer safety thing. If you're getting in a fight with somebody and you don't know where you're at, you've got nothing. You know, you might have your car GPS that's hopefully nearby, but you know, I bring back to one of my good friends. I was on FTO at this point, and I mean everybody knew our Walmart. You know, that's where Caldwell was most of the time.
That's a hot spot, man. Any
Yeah.
Walmart anywhere, I think.
Yeah. So he was responding there for a shoplifter in progress, I guess. You know, go figure. And he ended up getting into a fight. For pursuit, I guess, a fight. Ended up tasing the suspect because he was by himself fighting this guy. But he knew where he was. Obviously, he was able to tell us exactly where at in relation to the parking lot that he was, because he obviously wasn't by his car. He was in a foot pursuit, and we were able to find him quick enough that obviously nobody got hurt. But geography and officer safety is huge. And don't let your guard down. I mean, we kind of did hit on this, but don't let your guard down physically. Don't let your guard down mentally. Now, meaning, if this guy seems cool, great. If this chick seems cool, great. Be cool with them, but you can still have officer safety. You can still, you know, keep your gun hip away from them. You can still be ready for anything, and still be cool with people.
Right.
Just don't let that thought of, okay, these guys are cool, nothing's gonna happen, I can relax. No, don't let that get into your head. Proper driving. There's a lot of accidents when the short years that I was there. Know when to slow it down, know when to speed it up, and keep obviously the community safe. I mean, something that you said. I mean, you're gonna do no good if you can't get there.
Right.
So that one's super huge.
Yeah, and same thing that goes along with proper driving is wearing your seatbelt too. You know, I think a lot of times cops kind of get caught up in the I don't need to wear my seatbelt because I have all these things on my armor that's gonna hang me up. Well,
yeah,
I don't know. I really don't feel like that because you should be able to maneuver in your seatbelt while you're in the car driving, and then be able to take it off prior to getting to the call.
Yeah, and I'll admit here that I was horrible at it, and my thing was, for me, and it was so stupid, but I had to be ready for anything, and having that seatbelt on just tied me down, and there's absolutely no way to get out of it. That was a very irrational fear of mine. I wear my seatbelt every day in my personal vehicle, and I ended up starting to wear it, towards the end of my career there, because, again, irrational fear. I mean, a lot of officers will say, well, it's easier for me to get out of the car, or if anything happens, I can get out of the car. Yes, but we've all talked about the tactical seatbelt withdrawal. 45 seconds, or when you're about to come to a stop or whatever, take your seatbelt off, make sure you're clear of everything, go from your opposite hand, clear it off your vest, and I guess if you're wearing a hard uniform, that probably wouldn't be too big of an issue.
No, it's not bad. I mean, I will say that they even make seatbelt extenders for that stuff too.
Yeah.
So even more of a reason just to put it on.
Yeah, absolutely. And command presence and officer safety. How do those why would having command presence over a situation relate to officer safety?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to get you through the call, number one.
Yes.
Number two, it's going to tell the people that you're dealing with, like, hey guys, I'm the boss here, and you have to listen to what I say, type situation. And I would always tell my rookies, take pride in owning your scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing.
Yep.
And there was a lot of guys that struggle with that, and girls.
Yeah.
In fact, I think more girls were better at it than guys, truly.
I believe it.
But, it's like, even if we were last to the call, like, I want my guy or girl to roll up to this call, even being the last one, go talk to, the suspect or victim or whoever, and then just go right into the investigation. This doesn't need to be anything crazy.
Yeah.
you don't need to stop anything from going on, like, and reintroduce yourself. It's just kind of like, hey, thanks partner, tap on the back.
Yep.
I'm going to take this over, you
Yep.
know.
And delegating an FTO, when you're in FTO and delegating to other officers, you'll get all too many officers that show up as assisting officers, and they're waiting for you to tell them what to do, and that's absolutely okay. Reason being, they just got there. They don't know what crime exactly is being investigated. They don't even know if a crime is being investigated. So that's where you do a quick debrief. I need you to grab witness statements. I need you to put cones up for the traffic accident. I need you to, get a tow coming. I need you to do. Don't be afraid to delegate. That's what they're looking for in FTO. They want you to be able to. It ties into command presence. That is your scene. Delegate to those officers coming in. Yeah, they're going to have more experience than you, so you should be able to feel comfortable in saying, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And you know it's going to get done properly. And you're obviously going to see that when you come up on scene. As an assisting officer, not because you're new, but because you are an assisting officer and you're going to get delegated stuff to do. And that's just how it goes. So do not be afraid to delegate. And that was a big thing for me. I never really was a big delegator. Command presence was obviously, I would say, one of my biggest issues in FTO because, as we talked about earlier, I wasn't the guy who made waves,
Yeah.
And that came out in command presence. And I'll hit on this one story. So we go to mom calls. Two females were fighting. They were in a romantic relationship. They're fighting. I believe she said they were physically fighting. So I'm code 3, lights and sirens, getting there. And when I get there, it gets to the point where I was like, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm doing. We knock on the door. The mom lets us in. We can hear the females fighting upstairs. I'm with my FTO, obviously. I'm the only one on scene. I'm the only one there now. The FTO is not there, right? So we go upstairs. There's a pit bull just, mouthing off and making me nervous. The two females are sitting down now. One of the females had a Corona in her hand. And then the other, yeah, and the other.
Corona Extra or Corona Light?
It was probably an extra. I think it was an extra.
Yeah.
So the other female was sitting kind of in the corner of the room, and it didn't catch my eye right there. And they were yelling at me like, what are you doing in my house? And, we got the call. This is why we're here. I'm telling her to put her dog away. She's like, I'm not putting my dog away. So obviously that heightens up a little bit. No, you're going to put your dog away. We have stuff to talk about. We've been told that you're physically fighting. We need to see if there's domestic,
Yeah.
or even, battery or something. And she just was not listening. And I could not command that scene. And it was starting to irritate me. And it was starting to, get my wires all crossed. And my FTO kind of pushes me aside. He's like, all right, you stand up. I see marijuana right there. So you're going to go into handcuffs. We're going to talk about this. He separated them based off that articulation, which was absolutely right to do. The other female I stayed with, I was able to talk to her by herself, figured out what was going on, and somebody ended up going to jail for, domestic battery. So I didn't have that command presence in that point, because I walked in there headstrong, and then as soon as it didn't go by the book, that's when I was like, oh, great.
Yep, and then that's one thing that you kind of have to learn to adapt and overcome with.
Yep. Yep.
Especially for the new cops, because one small thing that doesn't go according to plan like it did in the academy.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, all the ropes come undone. The parachute comes out, and you're just like, floating around, not knowing what to do.
Yeah, and at that point, you're letting the suspects control the scene. You're letting them control you, and that's not how it should be, because it's dangerous. So again, I'm putting myself out there. It happens. We're here to try and make sure, at least specifically in this video, that you learn from our mistakes, and you think about those ways that you could overcome, adapt, and command that scene.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be an asshole too. That's you don't have to start yelling and screaming at people. You don't have to have your chest puffed out and your shoulders broad. in my career, I noticed I got more respect. Just, hey man, go ahead and sit down for me. Hey ma'am, you want to go ahead and sit down for me. Just being nice to people, you can still control that scene
Yeah,
very
instead of
easily.
barking orders,
Yeah,
you know.
because then they start fighting back more, and then it
Right.
gets harder to control that
Right.
scene. And then, people are getting put into handcuffs, and then they're starting to fight because they don't know why they're going into handcuffs. Well, it's because you don't want to just take the tactical breath, relax.
Right.
Not everybody is out there to harm you. Again, always keep your guard up, but you can still relax, be nice to people, and control that scene.
I always gave people the opportunity to
Oh, yeah.
bring a situation down, so that
Absolutely.
I don't have to take it to that next level
Mm-hmm.
or that step above to get them back down.
Well, and how easy was it when people are just screaming at you? Hey, sir, we don't need to start screaming at each other. You keep your voice calm. You keep your words concise.
That was the best.
And
I
they
loved doing
eventually just, okay, oh, I'm sorry. They end up always telling you, I'm sorry. Now, you'll get the people that are all hopped up on drugs or all
Right.
hopped up on alcohol. They're not there, it is what it is. And
Right.
that's when it's time to put in the work. But when people are screaming at you, instead of barking orders for them to sit down, hey, ma'am, hey, sir, let's just take a
I
breath,
always
okay?
notice like putting your hands up like that and like
The defensive
physically,
manner, yep.
right, telling them, hey, settle down.
Yep.
You know what? And I hated telling people to calm down because it's like naturally that should be, or it's something that gets people
Trigger.
Triggered. That's a good word for it.
Yeah. You don't, and that's a good point. Like, you don't have to tell people, calm down. It is more like barking orders when you're saying that.
I mean, even think, I can think of past relationships where it's like, hey, you need to calm down. I mean, even with my own kids now, I'm like, I just stay away from that. It's like a hot button word for people for whatever reason.
Yeah. It's as if you're telling them that they're acting crazy while they're screaming at you in their face and pointing fingers, and,
Right.
and you don't want to do that.
No, it's terrible.
But you can be somebody's friend and not be somebody's friend at the same time.
Be somebody's friend, but have a plan to kill them.
Yeah, I mean that's the saying, So it takes nothing to. Hey, you mind if we just take it down a few notches? We don't need to scream at each other.
Right.
Let's talk about this like adults, and let's get to a mutual understanding here, and
Right.
and we'll move on throughout our day. Don't make any promises you can't keep.
Yeah.
What do we got next?
Don't be afraid to mess up.
Yeah. So we did hit on this a little bit, but
That's gonna happen though.
yeah,
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You got to learn to adapt and overcome and understand.
yeah,
Where you as a rookie went wrong.
Mhm.
And it should be up to your FTO at the same time to tell you this is where, it went off the rails.
yeah. And that's why those evaluations are important. It's not to sit there and berate you on what you did wrong.
Right.
No, it's what you did wrong is what needs to be fixed. Think about it in that way. That list of, the call that you messed up, look at those, think about them, internalize them, and fix it, move on.
Yeah. One story that comes to mind for me.
Oh, man.
So this is when I was working. I was fresh out of academy and just being a cop in my first year. I was working a mountain home, and one thing they really don't teach you, or one thing that I've never seen, is like a dead body.
Yeah. They get you.
They get you. Like,
Yeah.
I think the only quote unquote dead body I've seen is at a funeral with the casket open. I've never
Nice
walked
makeup
in.
and
Right, right, just nice looking and ready to cross over to the other side and go to heaven, right? So I can remember this was on night shift, late August maybe, and I responded to a call with my FTO to a nursing home
Oof.
for a cardiac arrest or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And we got on scene, we showed up, and the lady, the caretaker or the manager of the property was kind of a frail old lady. She was very upset and just kind of shaken.
Yeah. It's
and,
a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot
right.
to take in.
And so we go in there, and she goes, our staff went in to check and see if this person was awake, and it doesn't look like it. I'm like, okay.
That's a weird way to put it.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, well, let's go in. So she takes us to the room, and you walk into the old nursing home, right? And it just has that like nursing home smell.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing I remember. I'm like, man, I really don't like this smell.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat, I'm like, oh man. So we go to the room, and the door's closed, and the staff is just waiting outside the front door. There's like one or two people to the small room.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and open the door and go tromping in there, right? Hey, I'm the police. I'm a brand new cop. I'm here to save the day and whatever. And so,
who needs CPR?
Who needs CPR? Someone needs CPR. And so I'd round the corner, and in this single twin bed is this older gentleman, very elderly, frail,
Mm-hmm.
appears to have been dead for quite some time.
Ooh.
Like, or so I thought. I don't know why I did this in my head, and then it translated to me doing this in person. But so I'm with my FTO, and he's standing off to my right, kind of back a few steps,
Uh-huh.
and I look at him. I'm like, "Hey, bro," or "Hey, FTO, yeah, I think he's dead." And my FTO looks at me and goes, "Well, you gotta check."
Oh man.
I'm like, okay.
How does one go about checking this, sir?
I'll tell you how. So me, not even skipping a beat, I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just go check. So I go walking up to him a few steps, right? And I'm like, I touch him, and I remember this too because that same lady that let us in, the caretaker owner, she's also in the room.
Oh.
And I put my hand on his left shoulder, and I proceed to push him and nudge him and say, "Sir, are you okay?"
It's the police.
I think it just reverted back to CPR or something, to where I shook this guy.
Did you check your pulse point to see if you needed
I
CPR?
should have. This poor gal saw this and just almost freaked out, man.
Man.
Like, what are you doing? Like, he's dead. And I'm like, ma'am, I know. You need to take a step back.
I'm a police officer, ma'am.
Yes, I'm a police officer. I just got sworn in last week.
I know what I'm doing
I
here.
know what I'm doing. You clearly don't. Can you go wait outside? This is a crime scene. And so she gets ushered out by my FTO. We shut the door. My FTO comes back and goes, "Officer Hoadley, what did you just do?"
Sir, I checked to make sure that he was dead.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I'm like, he goes, "Why didn't you just check for a pulse?" And maybe me, I'm like, yeah, I don't know why, but
I'm not a doctor,
yeah,
all right?
I'm not a doctor, I'm a cop, right? Just smart enough.
That's horrific.
So you gotta own it.
Yeah.
You gotta own it.
You gotta own it. I bet you never shook a dead body after that.
You know what? That was the last time I shook a dead body.
And you do have to gauge that because you can't go to somebody sleeping on the street and immediately go up to the neck and check for a carotid.
Oh yeah, no, right.
That's
right,
when
yeah.
it's time to shake a little bit, like, hey man, wake up.
Right, yeah, or you kick him in the boot,
Yeah.
like, hey, get up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wasn't really exposed to, I guess the same way, the open casket thing, the makeup, and even that for me was a lot. It was a lot to take in. And going to the old folks' home, man, it's the smell that gets you. It's the
old lost people that are just roaming the halls.
Yes, and they have to know what's going on,
Right.
and obviously they're sad. They've been around these people for a long time, and you're taking on that. You're taking on the family members that you have to talk to. You're taking on the staff that took care of this person for a long time, and obviously they're shook up. And then, you move up to even when the family members are there. I've been there even when a mom passed away naturally. Due to heart complications that she's had for a long time, and it was just her time, and still how that is just so heart-wrenching, and you're doing as best as you can, to console them, but still treat the scene as a crime scene, because it is, until you've deemed it as not a homicide or a suicide or anything like that. And then you get up to like the murder scenes where it's I've been on a few murder scenes, and in the moment there's not a difference. In the moment there's not, because you revert back to your training in those very intense situations. I've now, granted, I've been to crime scenes where somebody was shot in the head and agonally breathing, and I'm not a medical expert. I don't know.
You just had court on that, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Very insane case, but it's you don't think about any of that right there. You know what I mean? You continue on with what you need to do, and obviously right then and there, I didn't know what to do to help this person. All I could do was support an airway and try and hope the tongue wasn't blocking the airway off. But
I remember that call, dude.
Yeah.
So when so after you guys had found him,
Yeah.
and then I can't remember who went Hulk status on the front gate of
Yeah.
that shed. You remember
that we couldn't get unlocked. Yeah.
right.
So it came down.
Yeah, it came down all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone just went to town on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting into there was blood everywhere. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And
It was a very violent scene.
yeah, that's another thing. The smell of like fresh blood like that.
Well, and brain matter too.
Yeah.
I think it hits you hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, you take it in at like a oh shit, and then all right, here we go. I mean, just another call up until you're done,
Right.
and you sit there. Now, I had brain matter on my pants. I had blood that soaked through my pants. I had to go home, change. I had to go back to the police department, take a shower. Like, that's when all that stuff is kind of starting to set in and stuff. But when you're there, when you're observing that, it's like, I mean,
Right.
it's another person that you're trying to complete justice for,
Right.
and you're gonna do whatever you can to get there. Now,
That was such a crazy scene too.
yeah.
So I rode in the ambulance with
The victim.
the deceased.
Yeah.
And agonal breathing the whole way.
Yeah.
That's
That's a sound that you cannot get out of your ear.
Yeah.
Or
It
your
was like
mind.
And he, obviously was gone. The medics were doing everything they can
Yeah.
to at least attempt the save.
Right.
And do that.
Right.
And good for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's not just like a quiet ride to the ambulance. Like, it was crazy, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I was helping grab meds or grab
Really?
tools and equipment and a suction thing, and I'm like, I'm a cop. Hey, sir,
Add this to the resume.
Ma'am, I'm a police officer.
Please step back. Actually, never mind. You just keep doing it. Yeah, that's but yeah, no, same thing, man. I hadn't had any of that experiences, and like I said, I first off earlier on in my career, it actually took a very long time for me to see my first dead body in my career. And I remember the very first one, and unfortunately, it was somebody who had some mental health issues, and unfortunately the drugs got him. I had just talked to him, I think 2 months before I showed up at his deceased call, and we took him to the hospital to get him some help, because he's talking about seeing his grandfather who was in heaven and stuff, and it sucks seeing those, because those are the kind of people that you really hope that they get some help, they move on.
Yeah.
He had a big family with a lot of support, but unfortunately the drugs got him.
Who was it? What was the first name? Remember?
I can't remember the first name. I remember the last, and I don't want to give too much,
Yeah,
so
yeah. No,
I do remember his last name, but it's hard, those ones are hard. But that was the first one, and then obviously it kind of ramped up from there, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But
moving on.
we'll move into relax.
Radio etiquette? Oh, relax.
Did we hit relax?
I think we
No.
got relaxed. People
Okay.
understand, like,
Yeah.
just
I guess we did hit that. Radio etiquette. Dispatch, we have a crash here, and it appears that it's a beautiful day outside. There are two no, there's one. No, there are two cars. One car is a brake. All right, there are three cars. So we're gonna go ahead and start doing scene security. And don't do that.
No, because I'm on the other side of that radio trying to get out. Like, hey,
beep.
I'm in a pursuit.
Yeah.
Or shots fired, or something crazy is going on.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of departments are going away from code talk. You know, the 10 codes, they're doing more plain talk, which is fine. You know, a lot of channels are encrypted, and if they're not, you know, obviously use your 10 codes or whatever. But there's a time and a place to be on the radio. There's a time and a place not to be. Yeah. And since we're talking about rookies specifically, the phonetic alphabet.
Dude, you get some crazy words.
It's gonna be tila tortilla.
I remember this one kid that I was training, and he was absolutely terrible at the phonetic alphabet. Absolutely garbage. You know, and we tried to.
You can learn that. You could sit there and you can learn it.
Yeah, write it down.
Write it down 100 times. Right. Yeah.
Flashcards.
But anything
at all.
Learn it.
Couldn't do it. So I came up, or the team I was on, we came up with because there's a little bit of like jokiness and camaraderie in here. Yeah. You know, you gotta make life.
There has to be an FTO. There absolutely has to be. It can't be serious all the time, right, because then you're gonna have those guys that are hanging their head thinking that they messed up so bad,
right, that,
you know, that's the end all be all. Joke around with them, have fun with them.
This is one of the funny things that you can do that's not gonna get anybody killed, really. You know, like,
true.
So we made this phonetic alphabet of all the just crazy. I wish I still had it. I would share it with you, but it went A through Z of like apple, banana. One was like it was like can't remember the phonetic alphabet. That was for C. M was like maybe I should do something different.
That's pretty good.
It was pretty good. I thought it was funny, but you know, it's like. Just learn the phonetics. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it too. Dispatch, right, they know when you mess up.
Yeah.
I would, as a trainer, I would get messages all the time from dispatch like, "What did he just say?"
We'll talk about that. He didn't just say T for tortilla. So.
Right.
Yeah. No. I remember that, man. Hitting your radio button. Oh man, I was more anxious hitting my radio button than I was like going and talking to somebody.
Right.
When your FTO hands you a license and says run this,
you start breathing really heavy.
You're like, I could go look it up on my computer really quick. No, you can't.
That was a week. I at least made it a day of where my rookie would have to use the radio only.
Yeah.
And those were the best of times.
See, and I never got to that point with my trainees. I think I had like 2 and 3 phases, so it would have been a good time to do that. I guess one of my thoughts, my thought processes is you were going to have this, you know, all the time, and I absolutely regret to my trainees because I remember a day where the software had gone down, and so you were writing notes on a notepad of where that address is, and if you needed to look it up, you know, you're going on your phone or something. My bad, guys. Train without your computer sometimes, because there will be times where you don't have it, and if you don't get that address or you don't get the call comments on your ear, it hurts.
Makes for a tough day.
When you're asking, can you repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
10-9 dispatch.
10-9.
I had background.
Yeah, but I remember one of my FTOs messaged dispatch and said, "Hey, if this kid screws up his phonetics, even if he says, you know, T for Terrence instead of T for Tom, whatever, have him repeat the entire thing." Oh, dude, I learned so quick right then and there. I mean, because you didn't want to be the guy that was having to repeat a name on the radio.
Yeah.
So it worked. It worked for me. obviously, you're only going to do that. Dispatch knows when to do that, when not to do that. So definitely radio etiquette is a huge thing. Learn your phonetics, learn your 10 codes, because there are some officers that still use 10 codes. One of them specifically got into a bad fight with like 40 freaking people at a steakhouse, and he used 1063, which is emergency, officer needs help, and it is, right, if I remember right. Yeah, 1063.
1033.
Oh, 1033.
It's
See?
emergency.
Yeah, you're right. 1033.
Yeah.
So he used 1033, and at that time I remembered what it was. He didn't have to say, "Hey, I'm getting into a fight." I knew, get in your car and let's get to this guy. And so did so many people from other agencies. So knowing those 10 codes, and I should obviously brush up on it as I'm sitting here telling people in FTI. I've been out for almost a year, man. So, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't looked up 10 codes in a while. But
no, I mean,
but we, hearing these over and over again. Learning registration codes, name codes, warrant checks and stuff. And that's a huge thing too. If you have an open radio, use codes, because they will hear, can you check for warrants? And then they're gone.
Nothing is worse than hearing dispatch go, what was your badge number?
Mine was 144.
Yeah. 144. He's a wanted subject.
Yeah. He's gone. So
yeah. We'll catch him next week or the week after.
So they typically use code 1, or he has a 99, and that way in your ear. And I obviously wore an earpiece. I tried to do the open radio because the earpiece just killed me for a while. But they have
great radio earpieces now.
They do now, like the little tiny digital ones. That's what I ended up upgrading to. Loved it. Never could feel it in my ear. Very crisp, clear audio. And no people running away. There's a call where, and know what dispatch is saying in radio etiquette, because I remember a call specifically where somebody got put into handcuffs because a car had a 99. Because it was a wanted car. It was stolen. And sometimes dispatch comes across it. It's 99 or it's code 1. And they thought that person had a warrant. So it was like, going to jail, man, turn around. We're like, whoa.
Let's slow it down.
Hang on. We can't take the car to jail. Let's figure out what's going on here first. Yeah. But definitely listen to dispatch. Be listening 100% of the time. Listen for your badge number. Listen for other badge number. Listen to where your officers and your partners are going. Listen to where these other calls are, even if you're on a call. So if you have to split, you know where to go. Radio etiquette is huge, man. It's probably one of the hardest things too, as like when you're first getting, or I guess when you first get into FTO, it's the, then you get your badge number out there, you feel good, and then they're like, oh, 10-9, you're like, oh, great, here we go.
Never mind dispatch.
I'll look it up. So, guys, again, thank you guys so much. We're trying to bring you guys just a little bit, we brought a lot of stories today. I had a lot of fun telling them. We're not going to come out with names and stuff like that. We're not here to, call anybody out. We're not here to do any of that. We just want to have fun. We want to talk about our experiences, and eventually we want to, get your experiences in. But we can't forget about our question.
Oh, no. Let's...
So, Patrick, our super fan, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
What is your take on the whole auditing? And I'll even narrow it down a little bit to like the 1A, 2A auditing, because you don't really see like Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Right. I mean, that most people don't even know what those amendments are. So, what do you think about them?
Well, I think this is honestly a better question suited for you, since you formulated a legitimate response.
Yeah, I did. So I'll be honest. I hate those videos. I hate them so much because of a few reasons. One, I completely believe they are clickbait. It's a way to see an officer make a mistake, and two, it's very easy for those officers to fall into those we call them the rope-a-dope traps. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. the back and forth, sitting there. Again, we don't have to puff our chests out. We don't have to, we don't even have to own every scene. There are some times where governmental interest is just not there. And nobody said that you can't get in your car and drive away. I will be honest, there's been a few times where people start trying that stuff, and I have no governmental interest. Say it's a consensual encounter that I stepped out with somebody on. If I can't articulate a law that he may or she may or may not be breaking, all right, have a good rest of your day. You get in your car and it happens all too often where people are walking into police stations with their guns out, or their guns slung across their chest, and don't ever treat that like, oh, it's just a 1A auditor, oh, it's good. No, a normal person, an average citizen, would not walk into a police department with an AR-15 slung across their chest, and a lot of the times these guys are wearing like press body armor and stuff.
Right.
So that raises suspicion again. That comes to articulation, and I notice a lot too is there's another way to audit police, and there's a lot of body cam that gets put out there. Watch the body cameras. Yeah, if an officer messes up, that is his or her right to accept that, or his or her duty to accept that. Accept the consequences if there are any. Move on from it. But if there's not. There's a reason why they're not looking at these body cams, and it's because they're not right then and there trying to provoke something, and that's all they're doing, in my opinion. They're trying to provoke a wrong response from the officer that now becomes on YouTube. Cop gets fired for violating my rights, and meanwhile you watch the video, nobody's rights got violated, and you'll see a lot of sergeants go on and they tell them like, hey, this just isn't our, we can walk away from this. It's okay. And then they call it the walk of shame.
Yes.
Call it the walk of shame. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
It's almost better when, I'm not going to say it is better when you just walk away, because guess what? At the end of the day, they don't get the footage they want.
Yep.
They don't get the reaction. Yeah. And, you win that encounter.
Yeah. And they're going to end up moving on. If they're specifically in the cities where they're getting their views, you know what I mean? They're going to move on if they're not getting what they're getting. There's a lot of auditors in, Nampa and stuff that I haven't really seen anything from because they're not getting what they want.
Right. I remember when I went through a time where they were pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Not necessarily legitimate. I say legitimate, but more aggressive, First Amendment, Second Amendment, provokers.
Yeah.
But, I'm talking like the guys that might call their buddies to the scene of the traffic stop, or, the scene of the incident.
Yeah.
And then, those people try and come and interject.
Yeah.
And police, we have a duty to, do our work.
Yeah.
And be undisturbed.
And that's where it becomes unlawful.
Yes.
Is that instance right there. I mean, that is a clear-cut obstructing justice.
Right.
Obstructing the investigation. And that is when the governmental interest comes into play.
Right.
And yeah, I'm glad you hit on that. And another thing that I wanted to bring up too was a lot of these guys are constitutionalists. So they kind of forget that, like, we have an amendment that gives power to the states, where the Constitution doesn't exactly outline, a specific law or whatever. Right. Not only that, there's city municipality codes. California is nowhere near, in respect to gun laws, or Idaho is. Right. So the 2A auditor here in Idaho is going to look a lot different in California, but their argument is still the same. The Constitution says that I have the right to bear arms. Yes, the Constitution also states that states get power over these laws, and they get to, amend them and add I look at California, how many gun laws are out there,
Yeah. No, they'll get wrapped around the axles, man.
Yeah. So, and that's one thing that I never really got. And those are typically the guys that you pull them over. I'm traveling in my property. I am not driving.
Oh, yeah, the sovereign citizen people.
Traveling in my property. I do not need a license because it is my property and I'm just traveling on a road.
We'll have to do a segment on that.
That would be fun
Those
to
are
like pull up some
interesting
videos.
people, man.
You can't get through to them. And again, you have to look at the governmental interest there.
Yep.
They're going to get their clickbait too off that. You know, they're going to, cop does walk of shame. Meanwhile, he's not that important to you. And if his fans, want to say, oh yeah, we got that guy, so be it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
At the end of the day, your community still appreciates you for what you do.
Right.
Your employer is saying, hey, thanks for not getting in a tug of war match, with this guy.
Thanks for handling the situation like an adult.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying don't walk away, or I'm not saying walk away from, every one of these situations, because there is a time and a place where what they're doing becomes unlawful.
You just got to weigh the scale.
Yeah.
Weigh the scale.
Weigh the scale. The governmental interest, it's huge. I mean, you are the government. What is your interest in being there? If it's none, be gone with your bad self. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing a consensual encounter, which everybody should be doing, absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting out there, talking to your community on your own. But, yeah, I think that's all we had, man.
Yeah.
Hopefully this episode is much quicker. No, we're over an hour. But, again, I can't reiterate this enough. Thank you guys so much for your support. Hopefully we brought you guys something worth watching for an hour. We were talking about doing like a 20-minute video, but we just sit down and...
Yeah. I feel like our 20 minutes turns into an hour rather quickly. So
we just have too much to talk about. Eventually we're going to get to a point where there's nothing.
Right.
No.
No, we're going to get to a point to where you're not going to have to hear us. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That'll be the best point in our show, though, is when we bring on the other officers or the other victim witness coordinators, the judges, the prosecutors, special teams, all that stuff. We're pulling hard for that. We do want to get a following first, though. Yeah. We want to be able to go to these guys and say, hey, look, this is the family that we've created. We want you to be a part of it. And we want you to be able to share your experiences with our family. So the only way that we can do that is if you guys continue on smashing that subscribe button.
Make sure you subscribe, please. You don't need a
YouTube account. It's just a Gmail. It's just whatever Gmail you use to sign into your Google. Sign in, hit the subscribe button for us. It doesn't cost anything. You're not going to get any crazy emails. You might get told when we upload videos.
Yeah, which that's good. I mean,
it is very good. I mean, we have 100% great content. So
yes, we do.
YouTube
the
says
best in the state.
I mean, yeah, why not? With that being said, guys, we'll see you guys later.
Tune in next week.